Guys, welcome to the Road to Ragnaros podcast number 3. We're going to be talking about the Soul of Iron buff, the new hardcore achievements and titles that came out yesterday in the data mine, and then NA versus EU. We tried to visit that in the first episode, didn't really cover it, but now we've got Parla here, so we've got 2 NA boys, 2 EU boys, and maybe we can get some more talking points on that topic here. Really excited. We're going to try and pack this discussion in less than an hour. And before we get started, Parla, it's great to have you here. An Apes Raider, an Apes member, who previously played Classic at a high level. And now he's choosing to play Road to Ragnaros on the next Fresh, on Season Mastery. And I really do think there's a sacrifice if you play Road to Ragnaros, you know, this One Life hardcore community game mode event, rather than playing Fresh, because there's a lot of appeal to playing Fresh. And that's how I see it, at least. But it's cool to see someone like Parla going from the sweaty min-max culture that he did, you know, world first Ragnaros clear, right? That was Apes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Parla, you were part of that raid team, and now he's playing Road to Rag. But if you could give us an introduction on maybe why you're playing Road to Rag this time around rather than just normal meta. I don't know if that's appealing to you.
I don't know, there's just always been something about, like, hardcore that, like, ever since, like, I remember it so vividly, like, Kargos was making an undead in like, the undead starting area, testing out the gamma and stuff like that on one of the very first hardcore streams, and I was there watching, right? Because I always had interest in it. And then, like, on Fresh, it doesn't seem like it's... Like, if it was Classic, sure, but they're taking a step away from Classic now, Blizzard, and now it's something else, right? And that means I kind of want to try something else. It's like with Summoning Stones and my main content being, like, well poopy and stuff like that, it's probably best that I try something different.
I don't know, it's cool to have you here. I tune into Parla streams every once in a while, and I like some of the points he has on these discussions today. But guys, we're going to be talking about the Soul of Iron buff, achievements, titles, and NA versus EU. Tactics, Cargos, it's good to see you guys. Another day in the life, in the anticipation of the server coming out. How's everything going?
Yo, it's going
great,
good, man. It's going great. Thanks for having us, man. These are a lot of fun. They're sorely needed, I think, from the community, and Grace stepping up, getting these podcasts done. I think a lot of people really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's really big for the community. I agree. I'm happy to be here.
Oh yeah, I know you guys are excited about the leveling side, making your own guide and stuff. So it's been cool seeing the development with that. Guys, first off, let's talk about, and you guys, maybe you can pull the stream up. We've got a couple things related to hardcore on Season of Mastery. The Soul of Iron buff, it's a buff you can get in the cities in Ironforge or Undercity, right, for Horde or Alliance. And you can only get it if you've never died before. This signifies whether or not your character has ever had a death. And they kind of went above and beyond. I know the hardcore community was pushing to get Blizzard support somehow. And this goes back to the days of this being a community game mode event. And us sending in GM tickets, right? Trying to get verification from Blizzard. And at some point they stopped. And then with this new server coming out, we told them about the event that Cargos is spearheaded. And they've been so kind to make the Soul of Iron buff. Now, not only have they made this buff added to the game, they actually added additional things, like this death animation. Whenever you die, everybody's screen around you, I would imagine that's rendered in, shakes. There's a skull that comes out of the top of their body, and a soul is left on the ground whenever they die. It's something, you know, nobody expected. And then just recently, yesterday, they data mined these titles and achievements for hardcore. What looks like a level 60 survivor, Survivor of the Fire Lord for Ragnaros, and believe it or not, it seems like they've added achievements for killing the last boss, you know, Neff, Cthulhu, and Kel'Thuzad. I can't imagine we make it that far, but what do you guys, what's your take on this? Because since Blizzard's gotten involved with the Soul of Iron buff, it seems like they've added so much more. Like, they're so close. It almost seems like they're going to make a hardcore server themselves rather than just verify whether or not the hardcore community has had any deaths. You guys
Maybe. So it's been a weird time. I'm so appreciative, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, to get a bit of validation on the real, and to impact the game in some way. All of us together, building this community the last 2 years. It's the most touching and amazing thing I've seen in my entire life gaming, to be 100% honest. And I am very appreciative. Don't get me wrong, but with change comes like, you know, comes change, comes the implications of change. It's divided some people in the community a bit. Some there's so many divisive points right now that it's like almost a tumultuous time. I'd say in the hardcore community. Um, but it's still an exciting time. Them putting in these titles makes it feel like they're trying to flesh out the Soul of Iron ecosystem more into more of a thing. That makes me think there would be a slightly less chance of them making dedicated servers if they're going to come out with titles, because they would be unnecessary if you had their own layer or shard or server. But I think Blizzard is listening now more than ever. I feel like we all see it now, and something changed over there for the better. So, um, to I for there's so many points to cover, man. But
Sure.
my one thing is, I think if we did get a layer or a shard, it would be, because I don't think they're gonna make a server. But if they did give us a layer or a shard, it would allow us to rally a ton of people under the hardcore banner to like embrace more the Soul of Iron buff and system. And a lot of people would be more so okay with like disconnect and griefing deaths counting if it was a level playing field for everybody, and it was if the griefers had to lose their character too, right, to interface with us. But we're sort of in this weird position where we want to embrace this buff. We want to work with Blizzard and create something amazing here, right? And there are a few things like griefing in particular, that make it so that we can't quite fully embrace the buff. Like, we have to give protection to our players and participants in the events. And
if we can touch on that, because people have been asking, well, what are we going to do about DC deaths? What are we going to do about griefing? My take on it is you can't enable griefing if we allow, in our community, if you lose the buff because someone has been pulling mobs on top of you for the last 20 minutes and they finally got the mobs to stick and they killed you. If you enable that behavior, we've never allowed that in the hardcore community, and it seems like it would be a mistake. But I know for Parla, like, it feels bad not having the Soul of Iron buff if we were going to walk into Molten Core. Like, even if you were to die to a DC, I know DCs and griefs are a little bit different. But this Soul of Iron buff, what are we going to do on the road to Rag? I guess is what I'm asking here. And
I think it also depends on how Blizzard approaches it, right? Because if they end up saying everyone needs to have the buff, otherwise you will not get the title, then I could see there being some conflict. But if they say, if half of the raid or more is hardcore, then it's fine, or 70% or whatever. We don't really know the exact numbers yet on how it'll work. So I think that will have a huge influence too.
Right.
I think Blizzard thinks Soul of Iron can coexist alongside multi-lifers, and that it'll be fine, and it'll enhance and add flavor to the world. And in a sense it does, but that impact is like less so than here's my question to the chat. Would we be here right now, chat? Would we be here 2 years later if it wasn't for solo self-found as well as the delete punishment, as opposed to just losing a buff? From the very start, if we made it so the stakes weren't deleting your character, it was just like, oh, you just become a multi-life character after that, would we be here? I'm not so sure we would, to be honest. You need that like potency, and with accessibility and with balance and all that, you come with that comes a loss in potency. And we've like built hardcore from its genesis to be fun to watch, fun to play in that order, because we've kind of like in a self-serving light wanted to make content to streamers and stuff, and that but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we tried to build a game mode that's fun for everybody, whether you're playing it or watching it. The stakes are high. People like stakes. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I don't know how the chat's
makes
responding.
sense.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys here. Corvus announced this Road to Ragnaros event, and will it make a difference to you guys if anybody else gets the title? I know a lot of the people in the community, they think it would feel bad if a multi-lifer just he made it to level 60. He joined a multi-life raid, and he didn't join until Ragnaros, and then he's sitting in the back. And I think Parlo mentioned, like, you could just petrification flask until the fight is over, and he gets the title. Does that affect us? You know, and my initial stance is no, it doesn't. I
No,
think
it just makes the buff not matter at all. And what's the fun in have like why would they go through development process of having something that people don't care about? This was my question.
It's true. It would devalue the buff. I agree. But at the same time, we've existed without these titles and achievements and stuff for the longest time. We never really planned for any Blizzard support. We were going to get this done on era servers, no SOM, no nothing, right? We were going to go 1x, death equals delete, fully community, grassroots, tea party mode with it. So if people get the title and they want a Petri Flask, like not all of those titles are going to be created equal. There will only be maybe 1-2 raids that really attempt it with full hardcore.
Sure. And in my mind, and I would imagine for you guys too, it's not even an ego. It's not an ego thing. It's almost like protecting the hardcore community, like, from everything else, just having their own fun. Because I just did an episode yesterday talking about how to avoid getting griefed. You're gonna get griefed. You're gonna get killed. You're gonna die to a DC. People are gonna, laugh in your face. They're gonna call you not hardcore. And I really think it would be wise if we continued to operate the way we have, and just use these buffs that Blizzard has given us. And the reason I say that is just because we don't have a hardcore server, or we don't have a hardcore layer where all the stakes are the same. Like, I would be okay with griefing. I would be okay with the DC deaths if we were all on a level playing field, if we were all on one layer. Because in reality, one guy's not going to be able to grief hundreds of hardcore players, like is what would happen on this server where we all coexist with each other.
So you mean if I'm level 40 and then like a level 1 comes, you cannot really grief a level 40 character. Like, let's say some guy comes and, like, I guess you can still flag people in the big cities and stuff.
Yeah. Then there would be a meta. Like, there's going to be people camped in the neutral cities, a level 1 rogue stealth next to the banker, right? And so whenever you right click, you
I think we just need to shout it from the mountaintops. We have a relaxed policy on griefing. We'll say it from the jump so people don't retroactively or whatever, after the fact say, oh, they're doing these carve outs for griefing. No. If you get griefed and it's clear that the person is trying to maliciously end your run or mess with you and it's not a misplay, you will be able to continue. And we should encourage it, man. We should, because
I agree.
It's just messed up, right? There's no accountability on the internet. And we're trying, it's like, it's, that expression, this is why we can't have nice things. It's like that type of thing. Like the degenerate sociopath tier people that want to go and like grief people just trying to like enjoy the game in like a different way and stuff. Like, why give them anything, protect your players, protect your community, fuck them, and, we'll be all right, man. We'll be all right. And if we get our own multi-lifers, if we get our own layer or shard or whatever, I think a lot of us, if there were griefers, like Parla said, let them lose their 32, right? If they wanted to level up hardcore and try to grief somebody, but they lost their character as well, then it's kind of like an even playing field. And I think more people would be on board with just saying like, yeah, whatever goes.
This is how I see it. So right now, Blizzard is making the game mode for us. I think we can all agree. If we didn't make this game mode, they would not have made hardcore on SOM. So they want to cater towards us. So we have this buff. What we can do is we can use this buff as an extra verification thing. That's nice to have. We know that those people have not died, but it's not something we need to follow 100%. We still want to keep our own rules and community in the same way as intact, right? And what we can do with this is Blizzard is trying to follow us, right? So they are most likely going to make changes that benefit us. So if we continue with the same rules, they will make more changes that will help us. It might even be a change where maybe we get layering. Maybe they see that, level 1s can grief. Hey, in neutral cities, you can no longer get flagged when you're inside Gadgetson 10 hours. The subzone of that. You might have Blizzard might start catering towards us with changes like that. I think that's what we should aim for.
Well, what I think is going to happen.
They want to help us.
Yeah, I think so too, Tex. I think we're all on the same team. I do. I think Blizzard's listening more than ever, right? And like I think they're gonna find out soon that like it works. Like Soul of Iron, like you can do it on a multi-life just overall server, but you're only capturing a small percentage of the potency of the game mode because it's so rough to coexist alongside multi-lifers. And I think they're gonna realize over time that man, we really should just give them their own layer of shard. Like we tried it just to have it be like a little, accent to the world, but it doesn't work that well, and it doesn't have its own legs to stand on. Um, but the way I think a lot of people have been talking about, Duranosaur said it nicely. This is just the breadcrumb. They're testing the waters, right? Like I do think this Soul of Iron system they have right now isn't really even intended to be like the full final form support for hardcore and all this, right? They're giving us a breadcrumb, and let's try to make some
we're
loaves of
seeing
bread
these
out
titles. We're seeing these new titles, and I can't help but laugh. Like, I honestly think in a year's time, we're not gonna kill Ragnaros with the hardcore raid. I mean, I want to be proved wrong. I'm just keeping it real. And then all of a sudden, last night, we get BWL, AQ, and Nax titles as well. Is what it seems like. It's not confirmed, but
Yeah.
I just think it's funny.
They're
It's a
buffing
bit
the
of-
content, right? Even more.
Yeah, and they're buffing exactly. And
I
they're
I
buffing
think
the
another
content.
thing too is I think Blizzard, when they're at the desk in Blizzard headquarters and stuff, and they're talking about things, I don't think they see value in solo self-found and WoW. I don't think they do, and that's okay. It's a kind of agree to disagree type of thing. I think they sit around the boardroom or whatever. Maybe it doesn't get to a board level or whatever, but they're just talking about things, and they're like, so these weirdos on the internet, they've been playing with like some weird, proprietary blend homebrew
Right.
rule set where like they can't trade, they can't use the auction house.
Right.
Like, why do you think that is, Johnson? And
Well-
he's like, I'm not really sure, man. I mean, we put these things in the game. I think like in their mind, just making it so your character, well, I guess it's not even deleted when you die, just loses the buff is enough, and it changes the game in a radical enough way that it achieves like a much different effect.
Yeah.
And I still think it does, but it's only like achieving 20% of the effect, or maybe like 35% of the effect.
Right. Well, even on like the old school WoW players, myself included, like the entire point of Classic is community, right? That's what you hear all the time. And we're taking away the community. We don't group up with people to complete quests. We don't use the auction house. We don't trade. And it's like everything that hardcore is almost anti-vanilla. It is kind of a foreign subject. And I think about it, all the new people that come in sometimes, their experience, they're kind of it's such a radical experience. They didn't realize that hardcore would be as enjoyable as it was. So I don't know. I kind of just going along with you guys. It seems like it's a step in the right direction. Of we might see a different way to play the game in the future and have official support. But Parla, I know that you've had some. I know you've been pushing for hardcore servers. I know we've already covered it. I don't know if you had anything to say about it.
I think like with hardcore servers, we could practically open up the economy in a way.
So
At least
so
for level 60s, right? But like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. What we're gonna do level 60, we're gonna be able to trade within our existing level 60s that made it in hardcore. We have an additional add-on.
What if you could use the auction house?
Well, that's
Because,
what I
like,
was gonna say. What if we got a
because think about all the lobby consumables, lobby recipes you won't have access to because nobody can use the auction house until a certain level.
Sure. So what if we got a hardcore server or a layer with auction house, with trading, with would we throw out our solo self-found rules and just play on the server?
I think they
I
would.
think
That's what I was going to ask you guys. If Blizzard put in, because I don't think they're going to make a server, guys. I mean, I don't think so. Because look at these titles, right? What would be the point of making a server and then also have these? Like, I think it's like not even on the. It's not even on the negotiation table right now. But what really could be on the negotiation table is a shard or a layer. It would protect hardcore events. It would achieve a lot of the effect of having a hardcore server, right? Without having to like dedicate a whole server to it and stuff, because maybe that has a lot of weight to it.
From what I understand, they don't even have like servers, do they? Isn't it just all on the same server kinda on the internet somewhere?
Yeah,
It's just like
possibly.
having an extra server would not mean anything. I remember back. Do you remember when Classic launched? There was no roleplay server to begin with. There's no roleplay PvP server, and people in the community spoke out against that, and then they added it. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something. Okay, so if they just gave us a shard and layer with the current Soul of Iron buff right now, if that's what they did, right? And I actually think that's in discussion right now. I cannot confirm or deny that I'm trying to have that discussion right now with them as we speak. But if that was a thing, how would it change things in your mind? Would you just embrace the Soul of Iron buff and try to just play like that? I could see a world where Soul of Iron then becomes kind of the mainstream, with hardcore being like a niche subset of it where people follow solo self-found and like a few other rules. I would actually, I think, speaking personally, okay, let me hear what you guys have to say though about that. Yeah.
Well, there's one issue. Layering doesn't make the auction house layered. They would have to do that too, because right now, even if you're on one layer, you still have the auction house from the second and third layer. So unless they change that, we should not allow the auction house, right?
Yeah, that's fair. But if we did have an entire layer, I would lean towards just playing on the server rules as is, and not enforcing solo self-found. If this is going to be mainstream, if there's a Soul of Iron layer, I would find it hard to. I mean, it would be a little bit more cringe to say, guys, you got to play by our rules. You know, as cool as I think it would be, I almost would want to just send it, play the way Blizzard has implemented their layer. If they don't disable, you know, auction house and mailbox or anything, and it's just a normal server and you just can't resurrect, I'd lean towards playing that way. And then we're already in the seasonal, you know, 1 year life cycle. I feel like we've gotten a lot of news on the hardcore front in just the past couple weeks. Why wouldn't there in year 2 be a hardcore implemented server with all the rules that we have in our community at the moment? I don't see that being out of possibility, but just thinking about if they did add a layer or a server, you know, would we adopt our solo self-found rules, or would we just play the normal way? I don't know.
What do you think, Parla? If you got the buff Soul of Iron and it put you on a layer, how would that affect you?
I don't know. Like, if it puts you on a layer, then you I don't know. Depends also about all the achievement stuff. Like, it's really hard to grasp, right? In a way, it's like what it actually like implies. But I would love to see a server where then we could open up the economy. Like, let's say I'm level 28 rogue. You know how rogue weapon progression is, right? Especially on Alliance. It's like you have like really, really bad weapon progression. So why wouldn't you be able to like just go buy a sword if it's a hardcore found sword?
No, you're right. It would
But
basically
the thing is, you could already do that.
It would make it more MMO in a way, and you could already do that.
Well, I think we're starting to realize
with our rules, we could already change that if we wanted. But I think the goal was to not have that with hardcore. So I kind of disagree with the takes you guys have right now. I want the game mode to stay the same. I think changing it too much and making it more like just a normal run kind of ruins half of the aspect of hardcore. Hardcore is not just about not dying. It is more than that. It's solo self-found too. I think a lot of the community has said this before as well, that's why they like it. So I don't want them to change all of this. I think they should cater towards us, not we shouldn't start catering because they are making a game mode that's somewhat in our direction. We shouldn't say, oh, we're stopping hardcore, we'll start following Blizzard's new rules. I think that is the completely wrong way to go about it.
Well, you could still play with the hardcore rule set if you wanted to, right? Or if the community wanted to. Even with a hardcore auction house. But I think for new people coming into the community or coming into these hardcore servers, I think the Soul Self-Found maybe, I don't know, could just disable trading, disable the auction house, and disable everything.
I'm thinking about it. I feel like you wouldn't even be disadvantaged that much if we continue, because I mean, we're all gamers here. We want to be on the same level playing field. That's why we're talking about servers and layers for hardcore players, and we all want to be on a level playing field. But with the solo self-found rule set, we're really not at that much of a disadvantage to everybody else that would just play normally on that server at the same time. And yeah, maybe I could see a world where, because we have this add-on that we're going to be able to use. It's going to keep track of everybody's, amount of times they use the auction house, trading, mailbox, or just have it all disabled, right?
That's a good point, man. I mean, the add-on actually, guys, we were planning to have like basically 100% accountability of all these rules, right? Like with the add-on. The add-on, we've been in development for months now, and it will enforce all of these rules. I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate a bit, guys, because there are thousands of people out there right now who, I don't know, it could be an exaggeration, but just saying hardcore is cringe. Why are these people following some proprietary blend homebrew rule set? Just follow the buff, man. Just follow the buff. There's a buff in there. Just follow the buff.
Yeah.
Like, why are they making it weird? And you know, and I know, and we all know that we're trying our best not to make it weird. It's always going to be kind of weird. It's a community game mode. It's kind of weird. I agree. But at the same time, those people are missing something, right? They're missing the idea that solo self-found does really add a significant amount. Like, to some people, it's the majority. You know, there's a lot of people right now who are hype about Road to Rag, and they're not necessarily hype about not dying. They're hype about trading herbs to each other at max level and doing this like homebrew, like this kind of quartermaster logistics, operational support capacity type of gameplay, and hanging on to, you know, key recipes and truly being the guild enchanter or the guild alchemist, because you can't die, because those valuable recipes are on your character. And the more and more you guys talk about it, the more and more it reminds me that solo self-found, as well as some of the other stuff, really does add a lot, right?
It does. I actually agree.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so imagine you get a level 50, right? And now you have money, and you can just like put up all the gear for your next character the whole way. Oh, my phone is calling.
You're 100% right. I actually think 100% you're right about the self-found. It matters a lot to me. I just realized, imagine like you make a new character on hardcore and then like you just buy full fortune slot packs because you have the gold in your main, etc.
Yeah.
And trading is allowed. That would take all the fun away from like getting like a 6 slot back in this starting area. I know this is like a meme, but
yeah.
But like I catch myself like cheering when I get something special, like an 8 slot back in a chest or something.
Yeah.
And then that would all be gone. It's like, oh, a back, damn it.
Well, and also the vendors are actually relevant. That was one of my biggest pet peeves. Like whenever Classic came out, I was like, well, what's all this vendor gear for? I mean, some of the green vendor gear pieces were nice, and the green weapons from vendors are still very relevant, but people don't normally buy the white pieces from the vendor, but there's a lot of vendors in the open world that sell greens. You know, that's another aspect. If you could just trade those items, use an auction house, you wouldn't have to save gold in order. You know, it's tough to buy all your skills, abilities, buy gear, especially get your mount early on if you want. And with this new 40% buff, I mean, there's actually a line of play, not just level as fast as you can, but because it's solo self-found, you can choose to level up cooking, and while you're questing in areas, grind on certain mobs and convert those raw recipes into items that, you know, sell really high from converting them into their cooking recipe. So you can get your mount at level 40, right? There's so many elements that solo self-found adds.
I'll do the power special on the wire. Get a bunch of sharpening stone for blacksmithing, go alchemist, craft a bunch of agility potions, and go engineering for the target dummy. And then die after you finish farming and fishing.
I fished for like 12 hours. I had like 200 Rumsey Rum Black Label, and I died the next day. Like,
I think this is kind of a gut check for us, community at large. People play for the people. And I'm not even just saying streamers or whatever. I'm talking about you, whoever's watching, some of the people who have been here from the start, the people posting in the Discord, the people keeping the lights on. People play for the people. So if the people rally around hardcore and that's their banner, that'll send a message, right? Or if they just moved, like, there's got to be some people at Blizzard thinking, maybe they just abandoned this weird homebrew hardcore stuff and they just, you know, this buff is enough for them, and they become a Soul of Iron community, right? And we'll have to, you know, we either have to stick to our guns or divide a bit, you know. And I'm not exactly sure what the play is, honestly. I think we stick to our guns.
Stick to our guns, 100%. And
you think so?
Keep what makes hardcore special for us, like, and then people can join us or they can not join us. It's
like, we want Blizzard to cater towards us. We don't want to cater towards Blizzard. We don't want Blizzard to start making the rules. We don't want, like, why would we want to give them that option? They could change it in any direction that we don't like, and suddenly we are following their rules, and we don't have a choice because we're already committed half a year into only following them and stop the hardcore community. But why not just take the lead, like we have done for the past 2 years soon, and continue that same route, and they will change it for us if we keep a strong community, because that's why they made it in the first place, right?
Yeah, and that's a
Possibly,
great
yeah.
point. I want
Man.
to say, like this entire 2 years has been like a case study. I really hope one day Blizzard's like, we are gonna make hardcore servers. You know, they reach out to Cargos, and Cargos goes, here's the website. You know, here's F's in chat. Here's our solo self-found rule set. Here's the events. Here's the community cups that we did. You know,
Use the auction house, tear it down.
you know, this is what worked. This is what didn't.
It's some compromise though, right? At the end of the day, it's their game, it's their IP, and like they have more of a say than us, you know? And like if we ever did work together with them like closely, I'm sure that they would like maybe take into consideration some of the stuff that we really, really strongly feel made this game mode special and so much fun. But there is some stuff that they would just say like, yo, we really, you know, don't think this is a good idea, and we'd maybe meet somewhere in the middle. But it doesn't even necessarily have to be combative, right? Like throw a heart or something in the chat if you're appreciative of what Blizzard is doing, man. I never in my wildest dreams thought we would get some kind of even the smallest validation in game, dude. It's actually very positive, you know, and like it feels almost like we're a bit combative with Blizzard, but you know, I don't know where they stand, man. Like it's hard to get a read on them, right? Like are they rooting for us? I think they might be rooting for us to like do really well with Road to Rag, and like they might see us as like some of the main people keeping the lights on for classic WoW. You know, maybe they're cheering us on, and there's just a communication disconnect, or maybe this is, I don't know what their intentions are with this buff, right? Who knows? I wish I knew.
I do also feel like we're one of those communities that can do well in classic, or however. Whereas like the speedrunning community, I think it still exists for classic if they had an option, but all they have is next gear, right? Like,
right.
And in general, like the PvP community, all we have is next patch.
So
I think like it's good that Blizzard are like launching first source.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
make a hardcore so.
Make a hardcore server. I feel you. Just on that note, maybe to wrap up this rule set, the Soul of Iron buff, what we're gonna do with it. I'm kind of taking the approach, maybe, and it sounds like we all are. You know, let's do our own thing. Let's use our add-on. Let's do the solo self-found rules. Let's make some noise. Let's see what we can pull off. And then after a year, you know, maybe next season we might actually get an official hardcore server. Maybe this time we'll get it. But going off of that, let's talk about NA versus EU. So now all of a sudden, this Road to Ragnaros event has been announced. There was an idea that it was going to be a race to Ragnaros, NA versus EU. That sounded really appealing. Then we really felt like, you know, I was thinking more like war effort. We need every single person. This is an impossible feat. We're trying to pull off the impossible, killing Ragnaros with one life. We need every single person in the hardcore community to pull it off. And there's been a development of an EU run as well. And so I want to talk about your guys' thoughts on NA versus EU. What works, what doesn't, what's good about it, what's bad about it.
Yeah. I just want to quickly say too, to end on that point, my final thoughts would be, we announced the event with a certain rule set. We've been talking about it for weeks and stuff, months even, right? So naturally, some people are going to want changes to the rule set because of all these developments. But I think there's a lot of value in just following through and following through on what we said the event was going to be. And then in future events, like, you know, this game's not going anywhere. Praise Ragnaros, which is amazing. I love this game so much in this community. I'm so thankful it's you know, it's still around, still people wanting to play it. You know, we can switch it up for the next one or something, like you said, Gray, like the next season or the next whatever initiative. But yeah, just sticking to our guns and keeping the same rule set. But
I like it.
Yeah, what do you think about the NA versus EU?
NA versus EU, like I said, I really think this is going to be an impossible task. And I really would like to see everybody on one region, just to give us more of a chance to pull off killing Ragnaros. I don't know what the timeline's going to look like. We talked about that in the first podcast.
What was people's predictions?
What, on who's going to win or the timeline?
The timeline.
Oh, dude, it's all over the place. Like, all the sweaties are like, yeah, we're going to be in Molten Core by week 8. You know, by week, 3 months, the event's going to be over with. And then you have a whole nother group of people that are like, you won't even have 40 people level 60 in 6 months. And like the community is completely split on the timeline. And then further splitting it NA versus EU, you can imagine.
You know what feels bad? Ragnaros not dying on hardcore at all because we all rushed it though at the same time, right? So it's important. Like if you're gonna participate in the road to Ragnaros in NA or EU, of course there's gonna be some friendly rivalry. Of course there's gonna be some friendly competition. It might get toxic at times. Of course, there's thousands of people involved, right? But we all want Rag dead on hardcore. All of
That's
us
true.
are trying to answer a question. Can you raid on hardcore? Because if you can, that makes the idea of a hardcore server way more legit. Because first we thought, oh, you can't even level to 60 without dying. And then we kind of proved that you can. Now the next thought is, oh, there's no way you could complete the entirety of the game without dying. Maybe you can. Maybe you can complete the entirety.
Right?
Yep. Maybe you can complete all of vanilla WoW with one life, and that's what these titles are showing. That maybe Blizzard's starting to think like, holy shit, you might be able to beat the game with one life, and this game mode might become the new normal. It may just become the new table stakes for a level of difficulty, like, and not to drink the Kool-Aid too much, you know, but like there could be a world where that is the most competitive and sweaty and respected way to play or whatever. I mean, that's not for some people. Just want to play the game and enjoy, right, and relax and listen to the Mulgore ambience. But you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So
we'll kind of have two communities actually. Like you'll have a level 60 where they are more sweaty, but hardcore itself, the leveling is actually almost the opposite. Of course, you have sweaties that want more than 160 and they really want to hit 60, but a lot of them are more casual. They just enjoy this whole self-found game mode, right? But I personally think we'll have a lot of sweaties, and like I said last podcast, I think we'll be there. We'll probably have like 40 on NA after 3 weeks, and I think 4 to 6 weeks. In 4 weeks, we'll probably be inside MC, like doing the trash and first boss.
Yeah, maybe not.
That's my guess.
Yeah. It's not a
I
bad
mean,
time.
I think 2 months.
We did the dungeons the other day, guys, with the template characters at 60. So we did Strat and Skolo. And it was our very first taste of those dungeons in hardcore. And guys, let me tell you, it felt really good. It didn't feel overly dangerous to the point where like, why even bother? Like this game mode does not have legs. It's too dangerous. Like you can't even experience a dungeon one time. No, it was actually relatively safe. We got through it, no casualties, nothing really like drastic. And it felt when you were doing these dungeons that you only die if you make a horrible mistake, like a serious mistake that you can set up well enough so that if 90% of what went wrong, like you could still survive.
Yeah, we did have the template gear, but it was a really good look at the fact that it felt like it was possible. Because previously, we died on the first pull in Stratholme, right? That's the story with Jamin, and I honestly think everything before Molten Core is going to be more difficult. The leveling is going to be difficult, 1 to 60. The pre-raid gearing, the open world farming for Devil Sword leathers. Can you imagine somebody farming Devil Swords and getting 5 mobs chained on top of them and they just end up dying? Like I almost feel like that's more dangerous than clearing trash in Molten Core. Maybe not clearing all the bosses, but apparently this next week they're actually gonna tune up all the raid bosses, maybe even the trash. I think they might add up multiple more mechanics, but there's a blue post this Thursday. They're gonna ramp it up, and Molten Core was looking promising as well from what we saw from this first week, but I think they are gonna ramp up the difficulty.
One thing you can do with Devil Sour though is you can 2 or 3 man it. We're allowed to group a world at 60, so that makes it quite a bit less risky.
Or I could just play the hunter and kill the devil, so it's no problem.
Yeah, true.
What a rogue, actually.
You know what is really nice,
I mean,
though?
rogue needs a little bit of gear, I would say. You can do it, but without gear, it is a little bit risky.
That's the RNG element, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been a bit fixated just thinking, like, some of the feedback I've been hearing about the Road to Rag event and the hardcore event, and a lot of people who are just non-endemic to the community, like they are now interested now that the buff is in, but weren't interested previously. To a lot of those people, it feels like the rule set and the customs and like traditions we've built over the last 2 years seem like a complete fantasy, and they seem like a complete illusion, right? And it's like you're having a tea party with each other. But this add-on is actually going to enforce pretty much every rule. They even made a bubble hearth. Right, Tactics? The guy found a way to, and it announces if you're bubble hearthing, and it says cancel hearth, cancel hearth, cancel hearth. Like it notifies you. So
What about like Flask of well, not Flask of what is it called? Light of Loom.
Light of Light of Luna isn't banned actually. The mod team had a meeting a
Really?
couple months ago or something, and
It was banned for a year, right? And now, because of Road to Rag, they want to allow it. So I think we ended up changing it where it's allowed.
For
Light of
the
Loom.
event. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just very flavorful. Like it feels like it should be in, man. Like was the consensus. Like it feels like Lord of the Rings when Frodo has that necklace, right? And it saves him one time. You have one ace up your sleeve that you use one time, and it's all classes can benefit from it just one time.
Not
you know?
Horde.
And yeah, on
No,
Alliance.
they have sticky glue though, and other things, right?
Yeah, but that's
the
not-
argument
that's
you
not-
can make.
That's not 100%.
It's not the same.
Get out thing. No.
Like,
Yeah.
but I feel like Light of a Loon is not 100% either. Most of the time, you're gonna use your health pot, and then you can't use it. Or you will be an
Yeah.
MC, and I swear this is gonna happen. I can already predict someone will die because of it. They're gonna use the fire protection pot. They don't know that she has cooldown with health pot and Light of a Loon. Then it goes south. They want to use Light of Loon Hearth, and they can't because they just use the fire protection pot.
I'd say if I was in an MC raid with people, I'd want them to just die rather than like light a balloon out. Like honestly,
Yeah.
everyone
You
should
could
fight.
light a balloon. You could light a balloon though to bypass a mechanic or something, right? As opposed to just like hard
Yes.
thing. Like you can light a balloon. Like imagine on Ragnaros, guys. This is what I was envisioning too, and I brought it up during the mod meeting, and everybody like. So imagine we're fighting Ragnaros, right? And maybe there's like a blast wave coming out or some mechanic, and General Ampy, fucking Brigadier General Ampy's like, hold, and he's like, all right, everybody pop light a balloon, and it's just like a sea of like the of light of balloons going off, all 40 or whoever's left, right? And it's like this coordinated like Cirque du Soleil looking motion that like saves us from a mechanic, right? And we kill fucking Rag and become legends, man. Like, something like that. Oh.
Wild fantasy. Back to the EU versus NA thing though, like
Sure.
how many people do you think from Europe are gonna like go over? I know me, Tommy, and Tactics are. I'm mainly doing it because they are, right? Like, because I just see no hope from a European perspective to do it. I think I can do it on NA, and then swap to EU and do it before people are gonna be ready on EU. Like,
Okay, so I have a good idea about like the ratio. I think it's gonna be 60% NA, 40% EU each. We actually can see it on the Discord right now on the Road to Rag.
Mhm.
There's almost 600 signed up for EU and almost NA, 900 for NA. So it's like 60%, 40% right now. I know if Gusu joins, which it sounds like he will play EU. He has made that pretty clear, I think, that he will rather play EU than NA. So that will probably also help the EU community a little bit.
one thing I thought would be cool was NA first, Alliance, Horde, EU after, or like
That would be sick.
Road to Rag and
Yeah,
Horde after. On
That would be sick.
I agree, but it's too late.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like
I kind of feel like
I
it's
wanted
too late,
this, but I even tried to convince either NA or EU to go Horde, so you had one Horde, one Alliance, but both of them are so, can we call it stubborn, that everyone wants to be Alliance because that gives them the best shot, right?
So we're actually in a situation where like Road to Rag or like Ragnaros dying might not happen because the community is divided.
Yeah, I made a poll as well. 75% of EU will not play Road to Rag if they have to play on NA. Only
Why?
25% are
Yeah.
willing to go.
Yeah, I think
Well,
I honestly
and-
this event has exploded in popularity. There's almost like 2K I think in the Rag Discord right now. Let me check right now, just in the public one. Let me check. There is 2,145.
That's a lot of
And it'll probably blow up even more. Like, because
I
people are
think
kind of lazy, they procrastinate, right? So it's like the last second, they're like, "Oh shit, this event's happening in like a couple days." Like, okay, I'll sign up. Like, so all we have to do is fill one raid team on either side. I think it will happen. Like even in the hardcore guilds on Bloodsail and stuff, eventually we had 40-60s. Take some time and Um,
But do you go into MC as soon as you have 40, 60s with gear?
no, probably
You have
not.
deaths along the way. You need to have characters ready to go. Like,
I think we're at the level though of interest, and that having an EU team will add excitement to the event and it'll make a bigger splash globally, and we'll get more. I'm putting my marketing hat on here, for a minute, just because obviously the bigger we can make this event, the better chance we have of maybe getting a hardcore layer server or something like that, or so I think EU people love challenges. They are generally speaking, I think, a little bit more sweaty than NA players,
Sure.
and they might even do it before us, man. Even without
Sure.
the streamers and all that. Maybe they don't need that. Maybe they're just
Yeah, I think NA is gonna get carried by the fact that it's the event. It got announced on NA. There's a lot of streaming participation on NA. I think Stay Safe's gonna play. I mean, we're gonna get a couple hundred people from his community alone participating on NA servers, and I think NA might pull it off just with raw numbers and just participation. And this is probably the one opportunity. It's a really like niche special event that we could have like global participation. I think for the first time, probably the only time we'll ever get to see like NA and EU play together. I even look at like the raiding scene at Split as well. I could just see on Road to Rag, you would see NA and EU players playing together.
the one downside of NA versus EU, to Parla's point, is that part of the original inspiration of this whole event was Grace for Days. You guys know that, right? Grace was like, Grace is actually the guy who kind of started all this, by the way, the Road to Rag shit, pretty much. Like, not like, but anyway, part of the dream was assembling the classic WoW Avengers. Putting out the bat signal and calling up all the crusty boomers from all across the world that still love this game. Calling up Melderon, he rolls out of bed, he puts his fruit fly textbook down, and he's like, hello? And we actually called him, remember? And he's like, Cargos, what up, man? It's like 3 a.m. And we're like, Melderon, we need you. We need you, Melderon. We need to kill Rag with one life. And we get all the creme de la creme, all the best theory crafting brains, the minds globally. And Parlo would be one, right? And a lot of the EU guys would be there, some NA. And we assemble like the ultimate raid, And if we are split, maybe that doesn't happen to the same level of maybe the raid isn't as stacked, right?
Sure.
Imagine a 40-man raid where everyone they're a fucking big brain and a pumper, and like
One thing though is sometimes like it might not even be necessary to have like content creators in the raid. I bet you there'll be a lot of sweaty people that's just from the community, like people that we don't know. That will
100%.
playing in a really good guild, and they'll have so good gear, and it's like, okay, we have to bring this person, And I think that's gonna happen.
Well,
like,
I mean, streamers are just getting. We're all the same, right? But I think of someone like Calyx. Me and Cargos were racing on the last PvP server that came out, and Calyx was kicking our ass by like 2 levels. Sweaty pumper, and I mean, we're all gamers at the end of the day, and yeah, that is an interesting take though. Don't necessarily want the raid full of. It doesn't have to be full of streamers, right? Even though it is this Road to Rag event we've been hyping up.
I think actually streamers can be bad.
Detrimental, yeah.
Can you guys imagine like Grace just sitting on his bear druid, sitting and auto attacking stuff and then reading chat?
Dude, no, Parla, I told everybody whenever we go into Molten Core, if anybody reads chat, you're getting kicked from the raid. Like
No.
we're gonna have all the communities keep watch on all their streamers. If you read chat, you're out.
You know what's so funny though? There's a lot of people. This is another sentiment in the community. It hasn't been a big problem or anything, but some people are saying like, "Oh, why would I do this? Event? It's just going to be feeding the streamer raid or something, and they're going to go in there and kill Ragnaros." That might be the case more so with a multi-life, just regular play, where there's a lot of VIP types and they're in a raid and they're all getting. But in hardcore,
you think
you have a better shot than ever, yo. If
Yeah.
we die or wipe one time, you're up next, bud. Like, or if anybody.
You think every single streamer on the list is getting in that raid roster?
No
Hell
shot.
no.
There will be a lot who never make it, man. There will be a lot who will never.
Yeah,
make
exactly. They won't even make it to max level, and then
Yeah.
the dungeons on top of that. And let's say we don't clear it in the first 2 months. Oh shit, Diamond's out.
Yeah.
I've died a lot in Diamond.
True.
That's it.
You know my favorite thing about all these changes, though? Maybe not. I mean, the Soul of Iron thing is touching, but okay, that's a little dramatic. All right, so one of my favorite things about SOM and why I think it's going to be good for Road to Rag and the hardcore community in general is type of 1 in the chat if you've played on the SOM beta server. Type of 2 if you haven't. If you've played on the SOM beta server, you know how good leveling feels, man. It actually is kind of weirdly addictive, Ray. We leveled up to 45, we powered up. Our first thought wasn't like, oh man, I need to take a break. It was like, yo, let's go again. Yeah. Let's go again. Let's re-roll. Like it feels really good, man. It's hard to explain, but the 40%, those lulls in leveling where it gets kind of like boring, or even if you love vanilla so much, like, you know, you reach these points where you're leveling, you're just like, dude, this feels rough right now.
Dude, it was still a grind. Maybe it's because we stayed up for 20 hours straight, but even in our 30s, our 40s, me and Cargos were kind of struggling to find quests. If we had ran dungeons, I think it would have filled that gap a little bit more. But
what about resting? It's like when you guys are pumping, you have to like consider you don't get rested, right? And how much does a normal player get like in terms of rested experience on a 1 to 60? Let's say it takes a month to level to 60 for normal players. It probably takes longer, right? How much rested is that if you're playing like 6 hours a day?
45 bars. And you gain half of that, you know, so that is 1 level and 2.5 bars.
I love how
that you gain for free.
Yeah. I think you can level.
You get 3 bars per 24 hours.
I think you can level from questing without grinding at all on this one. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I didn't mean to cut off your point, Cargos, but I imagine it feels so good that it helps the event, and we're going to be able to reroll more. Like, for the entire year of Season of Mastery, I mean, I'm going to love having my level 60 character, you know, doing the Ubers runs for Flask of the Titans whenever we need it, doing other dungeon runs to gear up new players that just hit 60, well, because I'm geared already, but I'm going to enjoy leveling a character the entire year long. I think I'm just going to level druids for a year because the leveling feels that good, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it kind of feels...
It's kind of a hot take. There's people in the chat right now disagreeing and stuff, and I 100% feel you. And the great news is that Blizzard is also doing an era fresh. It looks like. I mean, but they haven't announced it.
They did a blue post that said it means nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, so I have a question here. If they ideally said, "Hey, we will actually make a hardcore server or like a layered server," do you guys want it to be on Classic era or SOM? Or like maybe even with the like, what would you guys say? Because I think this would split a lot of the community. We've been doing it on Era for so long. So do we really want the 40% XP boost buff? Or what if they said, yeah, you can do 40% XP boost buff, but with the boss mechanics, you know, the other changes?
Oh man, that's so fucking brutal.
I would do Classic Era.
I'd do Classic Era.
But I think you guys are on the SOM.
I'd do Classic Era for sure.
We'll see. We'll see what MC looks like this week. It sounds like they're gonna buff the hell out of it.
Like with buff rates, that's kind of a negative, right? Because it's already hard enough as it is.
It's true. I'm kind of in the honeymoon stage though, with SOM, bro. These 40%. Okay, I feel like I will go Era because out of principle, like I agree, bro. I guess we go Era. But bro, let me tell you something. If you check your just slash played of how much WoW you played, how much leveling you did between SOM and Era, which one would you have just played the game more on, right? I'm not talking about slash played to 60. I'm talking about like, all right, if I had to just level, you know, hardcore characters on Era, I will spend this many hours per day playing the game. Like, there's something addictive about SOM, I swear, the leveling, that like I feel like you would play more and you feel like more eager to get in there and just make a new character and just a part of me, a small part of me, feels that the pacing is kind of almost improved. But it's a hot take. I know it's a hot take, and I'm in the honeymoon phase. Maybe it becomes less nice over time. I was the ultimate doomer to start. Remember, guys, I was such a doomer.
Sure.
But
well, for the Road to Rag event, the 1-year lifetime event, and our goal is to kill Ragnaros, the buff leveling feels kind of good, man. We're gonna get a lot more participation too because of it, but
I also like the buff leveling in that aspect, right? The game is gonna be more top heavy, at least compared to like Classic Era, because you level faster, right? So there's going to be more people at max level and wiping in the dungeons and stuff.
Sure.
And if you wipe in a dungeon, like it sets you back maybe 4 or 5 days played instead of like 6, 7 or 8.
Exactly. And okay, if you want to ask me, like one of the main things that made me do a 180 on the take, and this sounds so stupid and trivial to some, but it meant so much to me, is this stupid little buff in the top right that I'm looking at right now called Adventure of Weights. I can't really find the words to explain why that meant so much to me. But if you scroll over it while you're playing SOM, it says Season of Mastery, seasonal event, right? 40% increased XP. It feels like a temporary thing, like a Brewfest or a Winter's Veil. It doesn't feel like they're permanently changing the values of the game that we all love. It feels like they're experimenting for one season with some changes, and it didn't, right? Because a lot of us thought initially like they were just going to change the game forever that we love, and they weren't going to, and it wasn't going to be some temporary thing. They really stressed the seasonality of it, and I really, really appreciated that.
The conditioning begins. Next year, $25 resurrect tokens on a hardcore server.
Oh,
just
no,
playing.
no.
I'm just playing. But we touched on Soul of Iron Buff, hardcore achievements titles, the NA versus EU discussion. I think we had some really good talking points today, guys. I'd like to talk about dungeons in the future. You know, I was thinking about doing episodes like why I'm playing Druid and Road to Rag, and maybe I could have each one of you guys and, you know, multiple warriors, multiple paladins, hunters, warlocks on. I'd like to talk about the 60 dungeon gearing process. I'd like to talk about all of Ampy's spreadsheets that he's putting together on, you know, the preparation that it's going to take to even pull off Molten Core, what we're going to need to farm in the open world. Do you guys have any topics in the future that you would think that the community would discuss?
Yeah,
Which dungeon's the hardest?
Which dungeon's the hardest? Which one's the most valuable? Yeah.
Which one is going to take the most lives?
I like that.
You know,
discussion
as a creator, Grace, you know, maybe you can feel this a bit too, like, or I guess we all are, you know, like sometimes you don't know what to make a video about, or like you run out of ideas for guides, or you don't know what to talk about, and you get stuck with your content, or you don't know what to do. With hardcore and Road to Rag especially, it's like this whole new animal, dude. There's seemingly infinite things you can talk about, right? The game becomes infinitely more complex, and like every guide, every aspect of the game has to almost be redone, the thinking on it.
Look at Ash in chat.
Naked hardcore.
Oh,
Road to
naked
Rag,
hardcore.
man. Yeah, right. Says the guy who leveled 3 naked hardcore 60s. Yeah, maybe maybe on the next Road to Rag. Whenever let's down Rag the first time with gear
You
on.
remember what Ampy said the other day, Gray, about doing it the first time?
No. What did he say? I'm sure if you say it.
Ampy is like just this wise, ethereal being. I swear. He said something about like one thing that really attracts him to hardcore, which is so different from anything else, is you have to do massive preparation in order to get it right the first time, as opposed to just trial and error, beating your head against the door. You have to get it right the first time, and just let that marinate in your minds. This is a game mode where you have to get everything right on the very first attempt. Which is so opposite of how WoW usually is, right? You do like 30 wipes and then you finally get something down. You have to, you put it all on the line, all the chips all in on the table with everything you do, and you have to get it right the first time, every time.
It's true.
We one shot the bosses, yay!
Well, even like playing hardcore normally, if you die a couple times, you're done. I always said you adapt or you quit, and it's a brutal game mode, man. So the season master is giving us like a reset button, and we all get one more shot at giving hardcore.
Did any of you guys ever like think to yourself, okay, I'm just gonna do one character, I'm just gonna try it out and then see? Or was it just as soon as you tried it, you knew you're gonna?
It was I'm gonna do it once, and then I just got hooked from there. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want to be the first hardcore 60, and then I died at level 40.
Yep.
And yeah. That was how I started. And then I just wanted to continue going. One thing we didn't touch on really, I feel like the titles on how far we will actually go. I would like to, because we talked about it before, like a little bit, but we didn't really go into it. Like, what do you guys actually predict? I don't think we will actually, like, imagine having to do next. It's like, how is that even ever going to be possible? Going in without world buffs, one-shotting with bosses that have more health.
Isn't that what we all dream of, though? The impossible challenge? Isn't this the hard content people want, though? Like, isn't this
next
like
it's impossible.
What if they increase the guild cap to like 10,000 and we had 10,000 players involved? Do you think there would be one raid team that could make it to the end of Nax? There's no shot, right? If we had infinite attempts.
Depends what people you have, right? Like if you have the super sweaty speedrun guilds and like you know all the top guilds from Classic involved, then I could see it happening. If you have a roster of like 80 people and geared and ready to go into next, you can easily do it. Just don't
But-
wipe, right?
How are you gonna get geared though? Like,
Yeah, that's that's the main issue. You need so many sweaty people, and that might not even be enough. You know.
That's okay though. It's okay that there's content you can't clear. I think
I
we've
like
learned that
that.
over time,
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
Like
That's true.
having stuff that is too hard, where your best effort is not nearly enough, is kind of dope, man. It's kind of fire, actually. It kind of puts the ultimate teeth on our game.
Maybe season 2 will be Nef.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, I'm skeptical that even one raid is going to clear Rag, and I hope we do in this first season. But I can imagine he doesn't get defeated, or one raid kills him, and they get the ultimate, not glory, but it'd be badass to be a part of that raid team. And now the next season, we've killed Rag. Now let's do Neff.
Isn't that going to be an interesting dynamic where somebody actually draws their own personal line in the sand, where they go, "Nah, man, enough's enough, man. I survived BWL, dude. I had the buff. I hearthed out. I'm done, man. This character, I'm just farming Peace Bloom on him." And you like call it on a character, like that's all I'm going, man. I
might do that if I have a title, man.
I got my title. I got my
Yeah,
3-piece. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm standing in the city forever.
But then again, standing in the city is just boring as well.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, because after 12 months, you will never lock into the character anyway. So why not give it a shot?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt with my 60 on NA, right? Like, could have killed in a dungeon. And
This
stuff.
is why it's like a fresh dynamic to WoW servers too. So usually there is no cycle. There is nothing that completes the circuit. It's not like a sustainable ecosystem in the wild. Like these WoW servers, they launch, they're hype, the previous honeymoon phase, few guilds hang in there, they clear all the content, everything rots to death. Like when you die and you have it like continues to keep the starting zones alive, right? Because if you die, you restart. It like you're back to being a scrub again, and it actually creates a server that could stand the test of time, I think.
What if we get hardcore servers? How would you handle death on those servers?
You're just dead. Like you restart. What do
I
you mean?
mean,
Should we
at that point, you have no DC protection.
Should you just be able to roam the world as a ghost and watch people? That'd be cool.
Yeah, actually,
I think so, yeah. I even suggested this when we do Molten Core. Everyone that dies goes outside Blackrock Mountain in their ghost form and just waits. And we might have 100 people, right? Eventually, maybe you'll have 40 ghosts just sitting outside the mountain.
So we can still get a
And it just
screenshot
stacks.
if the third or fourth wave clears Rag.
Yeah, hardcore servers are
Exactly.
the future, man. If you think about it, like you have impossible content. Like with that I'm just fixated on that point. We're taking this old game that we love so much. I'm running around Mulgore right now, just jumping around, looking at these plane striders. It's
Forward
keeping
assault.
all of this shit relevant and alive, bro. If we had a hardcore server, all these mobs continue to have life. The whole world continues to have life. The game has life. It actually becomes hard again. It becomes difficult. It like the difficulty level gets readjusted so that it's more fitting with 2022 and beyond with hardcore.
It's exciting, man. We covered a lot today. A lot of talking points. I want these to be digestible, so if people go back and look, they have a 1-hour podcast to hit. We're probably going to end our time here. Does anybody maybe have any closing thoughts? I mean, we got all these guys that are on the podcast today. Tactics, Cargos, Parla, they're going to be participating like crazy. Really excited to see what comes out of this next season of Mastery. I'm pumped for SOM. I hope you guys are as well. I hope you're getting the tools, even for EU. I genuinely mean this. I hope that you're getting the tools, the discussions, the talking points just rolling that we can pull off this community event, man. And I really want to see success all the way around, regardless of NA versus EU or any of that,
Well, I'm on both teams. Like after NA, I want to do EU.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I'll do too.
You know what feels really bad though? If we both fail. So, and I'm just being fully transparent with you guys in the chat too. There's a lot of streamers. There's a lot of people, and love them or hate them. It's definitely something to consider. That if we fully wipe on Rag, event might be over. And I'll keep playing obviously, and I want to kill Rag. I'm determined to kill Rag. But like the sort of like road to Rag hype for a lot of people might end right there. Like I know some people want the event to run a certain amount of weeks, and then
Sure.
you know, if they full wipe, just restarting completely from one again is too much.
It also
So we-
depends what kind of streamer you are, right? Because like you are hardcore. Grace is hardcore.
We're gonna be playing. I'm gonna spend an
Yeah.
entire year trying to kill Rag.
Exactly. And,
Same. I will too,
maybe
bro.
some people like I'm thinking maybe like the bigger creators, like somebody like Stay Safe, like he can't just sit and when there's like other games going on or
Sure.
Yeah.
it's just how it is. But actually I think he'll stick around for a long time. But or maybe just level new characters since it's kind of easy, right? With those it's like a few days investment. You can even do it off stream if you want to.
I think
Yeah,
what
true.
might happen is someone like Stay Safe. Let's say that it will take 4 months before we could even go into Molten Core, right? I think he would just like after 6 weeks maybe say, okay, I'm gonna start playing other games, and then when we are ready, then he will come back for the MCs or something like that. And I think a lot of content creators would do that if it got delayed a lot.
Yeah. Best case is we do kill Rag though, right, guys? And then Road to BWL starts. Then we do our own different logo top right. So you see the logo top right. I'm so proud of it, guys. Like it says Road to Ragnaros. It has the bubbling lava. Imagine like the middle part is gonna get replaced with something BWL themed, and it's like maybe it's Oni or not Oni. Sorry, the Nefarian or something like moving around in the middle. It's almost like the Hearthstone expansions where they change it like as a badge each one, and we do all of them, man.
What is Blackwing Lair called? You
A soul on
Road
Black.
to Blackwing.
Shadow Flame. Oh, what'd you say? To Blackwing. To
Road
Nefarian.
to Blackwing.
Yeah.
It's not so bad.
It's called Survivor of the Shadow Flame, I think is the title tied to it that they just data mined.
Oh.
Which is interesting. I think Shadow Flame, I'm assuming that's
Do you think how many cloaks you're gonna need?
true. Yeah,
Ooh.
we'll actually have to do a Nixia for BWL, yeah.
We could call. We could call them based on what Blizzard's titles are. We could call them that. Whatever one is BWL instead of Road to Rag. Next one would be called Survivor
Of the
the
Shadow
Dam
Flame,
or whatever,
sure.
or Shadow Flame. Yeah, Survivors of the Shadow Flame or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's neat, man. Yeah, well, I want to... We're going to wrap it up here, guys. If you could if you're a sub, put some hardcore flames in the chat, some hearts in the chat, man. Taking their time out of the day. Tactics, Cargos, Parla, I appreciate you guys being here, man. And I'm really hoping that we're going to continue to do more of these, because I really think Fresh is coming out in like a month, guys. I think it's here in like 4 or 6 weeks, which is crazy to think. But
Scary.
Okay, closing thoughts. Last thing. Last sentence from everybody. Sorry, I have one, but or unless you want to end it right now.
no, go ahead.
I'm just thinking, guys. We actually have a reason to keep playing Classic WoW, boys. Like there's still some life in this game. I can't believe it. Even with TVC out, even with like Wrath coming out probably at some point, we still have like a fresh slate of content again somehow by some miracle, dude. You'd love to see it, bro.
That's that classic WoW addict. Truly speaking, man, I'm right there with you. The game is still relevant. It even survived the 15-year launch. 2 years downtime, TBC. Where somehow we're still coming back to classic, man. Somehow.
Oh damn! They just canceled BlizzCon this year.
Really? No BlizzCon online? Well, wasn't that what it was gonna be?
Yeah, it's delayed or canceled.